Batman.
Spider-Man? Wow, how mainstream.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello? Hello. Welcome back. Another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. It's the middle of July. Happy middle of July, folks.
Christmas in July.
Christmas in July. I got celebrating those coming up.
Some people have already done it, right?
It's true. Anyways, how you doing today, Connor?
It was a gloomy day today.
Torrential downpour, reminiscence of the hurricane in the distance.
Yes, for sure. I mean, even overall, it's been a pretty wet summer for us, I would
Yeah.
say.
Outside that 1 week where we got like 40 degrees.
Yeah, where it
all
was
week.
really hot.
Disgusting.
It kind of feels like it's really only been really hot or it's been raining.
Yeah. Today was terrifying for me driving to work.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Like, I left my house. I was like, okay, a little bit of rain, not too bad. Like, it was already thundering a couple hours before. And I'm on my way to work, and there was a lightning strike that felt so close to my car that my car, like, shook while I was driving.
Okay, yeah.
I've never felt so, like, that have like, I
least
was
you're in a
already
car.
still waking up, obviously, but that, like, jolted me awake.
I woke up to the rain against the window. Like, that's how
it was
hard it was hitting
terrible.
the window. So, yeah, not
Not ideal.
the
For a Wednesday.
Not the nicest day.
Yeah.
Not the nicest day.
Anyways, well, happy Wednesday for the listeners, watchers. If you're watching on a Wednesday, happy any other day.
Indeed.
And, we got some interesting stories to start off this podcast. One,
Yeah, we have updates and, well, not us updates, some sad updates.
yeah, let's start with that sad update, is our local comic book store that Connor and I have been going to since the dawn of our friendship, about almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've been going there since 2012/13 area. Like, that's how long I've been going to
It's
that
funny
comic
because
book
I'm
store.
basing it off of New 52 started in 2011. Volume, so 13 issues of Death in the Family. Like, Batman issue 13 was Death in the Family, so that's
Yep.
about 13 bi-weekly. Yeah, late 2012, early 2013 tracks. I obviously went to a comic book store before that, which closed down, and then with getting to know Connor, we jumped to Big B and local comic book store. I guess I can say Big B Comics.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. Anyways. So last week I saw a post a buddy sent to mine that the local comic book store is closing down, and it's oddly heartbreaking because it feels like it's the end of an era.
There's a lot of mixed emotions. Obviously, one of them is we haven't been going there as often as we once
No.
did. We both don't have pulls. You have a pull.
I have a
but-
pull now,
Yeah.
as of a few months ago when they moved closer to my house. But
Yeah, but that was only just recently also,
Yeah.
right? And it's just they also moved in the lifetime that I've been going there. They've moved twice.
yeah,
And
I mean, same. Yeah, they were farther down the street, and it was very smaller on the corner of like right next to a pig-style restaurant. I remember that.
yeah, and it's a shame because one, we're thinking of trying to plan something with Big B if we could have, to whether record in the comic book store or to have
The owner of the
the
comic book
owner
store.
or some of the people we know there to have on the podcast. We still might have them on, but it definitely seems like it's going to be a much more somber conversation than it perhaps would have been.
I think it's crazy because like it's funny because like I've picked up so many big storylines over the years from them, and I remember going in and just having like hour and a half long conversations with some of the workers.
And I
Like,
think that's what makes going to your local shop better, is it is a sense of more of a community of you, at least at a store. This is kind of like what my expectation is that you're going to go there, pick up your stuff, probably talk to the cashier or someone that's there, or maybe you meet someone else who's getting the same story and you become friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a way of meeting people who have similar interests as you, and it's a way of mingling and getting out of your comfort zone. Because let's face it, a lot of people who read comics are a little bit more introverted, you could say.
Usually, yeah. I mean, I owe Bigby to my love for Swamp Thing. Like,
There you go.
I bought some New 52 stuff, and one of the workers behind the counter was like, "Oh, have you checked out Swamp Thing?" And he's like, "Oh, the first volume is in the discounted section."
Yeah, give it a try.
And I did, because when you go there and you're with people that are in the similar community, and kudos to them, because I feel like any worker that was there was always super easy to chat with. Like,
They're all great, yeah.
they would like grab your pull and be like, "Oh, you're reading this. Oh, what are your thoughts on this?"
Or
"Did you
even
check out this?"
movies that recently came out.
Sports too. You would talk to the
Oh
owner
yeah,
about
I talked to
sports
the owner
from time to
about
time,
hockey
too.
all the time.
Like-
We've had anime conversations with
Yeah,
people there.
the recent couple years back, they started getting more and more into manga and producing that, which was really cool. It's sad, but like, I hope everyone the best and stuff. And
it goes to show you though
adventures.
that people aren't running a comic book store for money. They're running it because it's something they're passionate about.
Exactly.
And this is like a good PSA to support your local comic book shop if you're able to, and if there is one close by that is possible to get to. It helps them out a lot if you can go you pick up your paperbacks from there. Maybe think about starting a pull. I know that comic books aren't cheap,
No, definitely not.
but it's one reason that Matt and I try to always go to the comic book store or a book shop instead of ordering from somewhere like Amazon or another big place to get our books, because
It's the experience.
but also, it's helping that local place stay open for other people to experience that as well.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that's the saddest part, is that there aren't going to be people that get to meet these amazing people that work at Big B, and that, they offered so many cool things, like for kids, the if you've got an A.
The good grades for kids. Yeah. So at the end of every like year for the school year for elementary school for June, like if you brought in your report card and you showed that you got an A, they would give you a free comic book. And I think that is so humble and just so...
Well, and it's like, a goal for kids. Like, hey, like, you can enjoy comic books, but you can still do good in school. Like,
exactly. You're allowed to have nerdums and stuff.
and have hobbies, but, still focus on school's still important. Obviously, Free Comic Book Day. Everyone knows about Free Comic Book Day, but those were great days at Big B as well. And just seeing the community of both young and older people going
exactly.
to and enjoying something that we all love is...
More recently, too, the owner, he had his dog there occasionally. And
Yeah.
Barkley,
adorable.
what a great, fun dog. Like, it was fun going to, opening the front door and you just hear, "Arr!" And then you just hear the owner be like, "Barkley." And then just this friendly dog just came to greet you. And I'm like, this is, to me, in a way, this sounds really weird, but it's like going to a coffee shop for the experience. Like, you don't mind spending an extra dollar or
You're
two.
going there for the vibes.
Exactly.
You're not just going there for
the comic
your
books.
Tim Hortons and leaving.
Exactly.
You're going there to pick something up that you're getting. But it is almost sad when you leave Big B and don't talk to someone.
Yeah, it just feels awkward.
Feels like you weren't there.
Exactly,
It's not a Big B visit if you didn't chat with someone and
even
have
if
a
you
nice
don't know the
conversation.
guy behind the counter or the woman behind the counter, whoever's behind the counter,
They're all nice.
they're all super nice, and they love. It's similar to us. Like, we love talking about,
And they're all
our
nerds. They're all
fandoms.
nerds.
Exactly.
They're all nerds.
Exactly.
They ain't hiring no nerds. They ain't hiring bullies or something to
Exactly.
bully you and being like, "Huh, Batman."
Spider-Man. Wow, how mainstream. No.
Yeah, exactly.
There are questions that are like, "Oh, what do you think of the recent issue of Spider-Man? Do you know that this is happening in the tie-in comic, or this is coming out soon?" Like, so shout out to our local comic book store. Sad that it's closing, but for any listener, go to your local comic book store. Even if you just buy a single issue, just experience the essence of a comic book store.
Yeah, chat with someone at the comic book store. Chat the people there.
Ask for recommendations. We always ask you guys for recommendations. We give you guys
They
recommendations.
have great recommendations.
I've never been let down by going to my local comic book store. So it's sad because part of me wants to just stop getting my pull and just wait for the paperbacks if I enjoy it. Because, there's something enjoyable about doing a pull list and coming in and be like, oh.
For sure.
And they also had an email system too. So I got an email this morning about being like, hey, this issue's out. And I'm like, oh, sick.
I'm going to go pick this up.
I'm going
You
to go
got
pick it up.
excited, yeah.
Exactly,
No, for sure. And obviously, I'm sure this is common for all comic stores, the being able to put in a special order if there's something you want.
Exactly.
Whether that was you could do collectibles.
Collectibles, TCGs they were selling to, the big boys, the omnibuses, single issues,
Manga.
back issues.
Back in, like you said, obviously the manga selection has grown immensely as anime and manga has been growing.
I remember it being one shelf, and now it's a whole
you used to have to be like, hey, I'm collecting Attack on Titan. Would it be possible to get in some volumes?
I remember too being there, and
they would know after you said, hey, can I get volume, let's say 12, 13, 14 of Attack on Titan ordered? They were starting to make sure that they had
the next few.
Because they knew that you were going to come in and grab it.
Exactly. And I remember even we were there one time, and the guy behind the counter was like, "Oh, like what mangas do you think we should bring in?"
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole community aspect of this local comic book store alone. Just
it'll be missed.
It will be missed,
Greatly
definitely,
missed for sure. The one nice thing is that Big B for us in our area is a chain.
I mean, the next one's like an hour and a half away.
Yeah, but there are multiple stores.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they make sure that something that is common within the Big B culture is how the owner is for our Niagara Falls one and for all the staff. I'm sure that that's a common thing they keep throughout all of the stores. But it is sad to see it go.
Yep.
Very sad. Will be missed. Maybe. You never know. We might try and get some of the guys from there on. Get their thoughts on, one, getting to work at a comic book store, what it was like. Exactly. And maybe if we have the owner, maybe we can talk about the ups and downs of owning a comic book store.
Exactly, yeah.
Would be a very educational topic, I think.
Definitely. So anyways, so on that sad note, we're going to move on to an experience that Connor and I had about a couple months ago that we
It was about a month ago, but we kept forgetting to talk about it, which is hilarious because of how many anime-related episodes we've had, and we kept forgetting to mention it.
So, for those who don't know, me and Connor do the occasional chapters run, Indigo, Kohl's, depending where you are. And we're at the graphic novel manga section, and this older lady comes up to me. Super nice old lady. She's like, "Hey, I want to buy some manga for my grandson, but I'm told to like stay away from these particular ones."
Yeah, she had a list of all the ones that her son or grandson already had or is currently collecting, I guess.
Yeah, so it was the big ones. Like there was, I think it was like One Piece, Boruto /
Naruto, Demon Slayer. Like
Demon Slayer.
What you would expect for a current getting into anime manga child, male child to have. A bunch of shonen and the big shonen at that.
Exactly. So classic Matt, I'm talking to this random lady, and I pulled Connor into it. I was like, "Oh, Connor, can you like help us out? Like we'll do some recommendations." And so Connor's like, "Oh, do you like play it? Like, does your grandson play any sports or anything?"
She's like, "Oh, he plays soccer." And I was like, "Oh, well, there's currently a very popular soccer manga."
And she just goes, "Oh, do you mean that blue block one?"
Yeah, she was like, "That blue one." And I was like, "Oh yeah, blue block." She's like, No, he already has that one." I was like, "All right, well, fair enough."
Yeah, I mean, this grandma knew.
And I was like, "Okay." So we ended up suggesting JJK.
I think JJK and Kaiju number 8 were the two we were kind of pointing at.
Obviously we did let her know that JJK was a little darker, and but I can't remember which manga he had. But he had one that was kind of already on the darker side, so it wasn't totally out there. Obviously, JJK is a very popular series. If you like most of that shonen that we already met that he has, there's very good odds he's going to enjoy JJK. So that's how we kind of base it. We also let her know, this one's currently top of the sales. Also,
gave her the facts.
Very popular anime. We also mentioned that Kaiju number 8 has an anime that's airing right now, so the popularity of this manga might go up. And she was like, "Oh, you mean on Crunchyroll?" And we were like,
we were genuinely shocked that this grandma knew.
Yeah, on Crunchyroll. All right. Yeah, she was that's a grandma that pays attention to her grandson's.
Sure to you, random grandma.
Yeah. She definitely pays attention to the hobbies and passions of her grandchildren, which is just really nice to see. And it brought a smile to our face. We somehow did not mention that we have a podcast or anything. We were just too flabbergasted, I guess.
As soon as she knew what Blue Lock was and she like named Crunchyroll, like it could have been like, "Oh, he watches anime on some website," but she like knew her stuff.
And it was us. I was like, "Oh, it's currently airing," and she's like, "Oh, on Crunchyroll," and we're like,
"Yeah, we're like
taken away."
Flabbergasted by this. But it's such a random thing that just happened, and we just forgot to share.
We have a nerd podcast, and we forgot to mention a fun nerd interaction with a grandma.
Good old grandma.
So hopefully, her grandson really enjoyed JJK and has continued the collection and is enjoying the story.
I hope so too.
Maybe even watching the anime now.
Sure. But now the topic of the episode.
Yeah, on to the main topic of this
15 minutes
episode.
Later.
This one, like the grandma discussion, has been pushed back we've had this idea for a while. Matt actually shared an article with me a while back.
Yeah, this article was published back in the end of May 2024, May 25th, 2024, by a guy named Louis Kemner. And this is our article name is Rejoice Anime Fans, You Can Finally Abandon the 3-Episode Rule. Now, for those who don't know about the 3-episode rule, or those who haven't listened to or watched any of our videos where we discuss the upcoming anime in every season, summer, fall, spring, and winter, not in that order, we talk about the 3-episode rule. And without going into too much detail, it's plain and simple. You watch an anime, you watch the first 3 episodes, and then you're like, do I continue watching this? Do I give it up? Do I put it on maybe I'll get back to it, wait a few more episodes? Because even the anime that we watched for June, I believe, Ashura, you watched the first 3 episodes.
Yep.
And it was just like, I'm okay.
Yeah, so, to oversimplify, the 3-episode rule is basically just a way, because there is so much anime coming out, as you've seen when we do our season previews for the seasonal anime content. Sometimes there is just too much. There's too much anime to watch, possibly to watch.
Especially if you're into like isekais versus more shonen or more romance.
Just in general,
there's so much.
There's so much to pick from. So much, and this is obvious. What happens if you have a bunch of old anime you haven't watched yet that you want to watch, and then on top of the seasonal,
to watch list just keeps growing and
never
growing.
Ending. And
totally don't know what that's like.
So it's definitely a way of narrowing down. If you've, like Matt mentioned, if you've watched our previews, then you know that we'll be like, hey, I'll think about it. And usually what I think about means is you're usually giving it 1 to 3 episode try. And if it catches your interest or not, then you keep watching or you don't. That's pretty much what the rule does. Now, obviously, goes without saying, there are definitely many anime that have defied the logic of this 3-episode rule. And which is good. As One Piece fans, I think it's fair to say that One Piece doesn't survive the 3-episode rule for a lot of people.
It's true. I also think, too, like, when you look at anime that started in late 90s, early 2000s, the first 3 episodes...
Pacing's a lot different.
The pacing, that's what I'm looking for, is very different, because I feel like nowadays, with the said 3-episode rule, and just the way we consume media...
We want it to be...
We need the hook, line, and sinker in the first episode
quick.
too.
Has to be quick. Boom. Has to get you hooked, and there isn't a lot of time to build up to something.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to say that there aren't the rare series that do have a little bit more of a build up, but in this time, this era, a lot of studios or mangaka are aiming to hit that. Your first few chapters, you're in.
Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully hooked for a long time, if not the whole story. And what I found interesting about this article is it does cover things that have defied the rule.
Yeah.
And the general concept of the rule overall not being as concrete. But the main kind of meat and potatoes, if you will, of the article is that it's discussing the idea of social media causing this rule to no longer be important. And obviously with that also comes the amount of good shows there are, because we've been nitpicky about shows, but we've seen shows that are very solid, but we won't give, it's not like a 10 out of 10, but 7, 8 is still a solid grade, if you will. And it's just because animes overall, the quality is higher. The standard that needs to be met to be even decent is a lot higher. And that means even the anime that go beyond that, we just have so many shows to pick from. And like Matt said, it's a never-ending list of your plan to watch because there's just too many shows. I mean, there's so many shows to watch. We've had Gray on multiple times, and he's seen like almost 1,000 anime or something.
Everything you've seen plus me times 2.
And even he's like, no, I still have tons of good shows I have not, or what people say are good shows that I just haven't gotten to seeing yet.
Exactly. And
that also, I think, has a large impact on the 3-episode rule, because maybe people just aren't watching seasonal stuff because they're like, hey, I've got so much. Why should I waste time watching shows that other people can watch during the season, and I'll just watch a couple seasons back.
Yeah.
And I'll watch what people said were good. Now, with that comes kind of the part I wanted to discuss with you. And you guys as well, if you'll drop your comments in the YouTube video, as well as our Discord, which is going to be linked in our link tree, so you can join us and discuss on this episode on the discussion thread. And that is, one, do you still do the 3-episode rule?
I think I do, because obviously if I'm intrigued by a story to begin with, because I treat the 3-episode rule how I treat books in a way.
Okay.
So when I'm reading a book or I pick up a book, I have my own 3-episode rule concept where it's usually
the 3-chapter rule?
It's 5 chapters or 50 pages, basically.
Okay.
If I can get to page 50 and still be intrigued, I will finish the book. Or if I get to chapter, whatever comes first, basically.
I see what you're saying. Like, does it pique my interest before 50 pages / that 5th chapter?
Yeah, because sometimes chapters are longer
Yeah,
or
for
slower,
sure.
right? So I got to create that little middle ground. And that's the thing. I think for me, when it comes to that and the 3-episode rule, is that if I am bored or if I'm getting easily distracted or I just don't really care about the characters or anything like that, like if I don't feel there's a little bit of interest or growth of them first 3 episodes or the first 50 pages, whatever, first 5 chapters, then I'm inevitably not going to continue.
Yeah,
I don't think, because when you read like a really great book, for example, obviously the prologue can be great. That does not mean the next couple chapters are going to be.
I was going to say, like, a big point for me is, obviously, we have to be, I wouldn't say we're all-knowing. By no means are we all-knowing. But I will say that I think we're pretty well, we're pretty knowledgeable. We've seen a good amount of shows, and we've been doing our previews, so we try our best to kind of follow up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a matter of time. That's one big thing is time is, you only have so much time.
Yeah.
And you want to split that time with loved ones, family,
other hobbies,
seeing
work.
movies. We see movies, work, playing games, like Matt said, like that's a big hobby of mine. So it is, and then there's anime. Yeah. And some people, that's everything. And there's times where I am definitely on like a kick of anime, and that's all I'm like. Pretty much, it's like work, eat, watch anime.
Yeah, we've talked about the binge in the past, but yeah, it's sometimes you just can't.
Sometimes it's clicking, and sometimes it isn't.
Exactly.
And
sometimes you're like, I'm all gonna do is anime. Versus sometimes I just want to read manga. Like it
the thing
comes
that
in waves.
for us is also the podcast. We don't make money off the podcast. This is just something we do for fun.
Yeah,
we're passionate about it.
And first off, I'm proud of us for being over 100 episodes straight every single Wednesday, not missing a week.
It's been not easy.
No.
We've had some harder weeks to reach our goals.
We've recorded the night before the episode goes live.
Oh, for sure. And Matt's done a fantastic job of cranking out the editing for it. And we don't have time. We hardly find time to record, and that's something we want. We're doing everything we can to make sure we're coming out weekly. So with that comes cuts, if you will. Every great movie has cuts too. You got to cut stuff out. And that's, for me, that's the big thing. 3-episode rule saves me time. I don't have to watch 12 episodes of a show and be like, okay, yeah, that sucked. Or it wasn't for me, if you will. And the only thing that is painful about the 3-episode rule is that not all good starts means there's going to be a good ending.
That's the one thing I like about this article. They specifically talk about
they have
Tokyo Ghoul.
Yes, that's a great example. And not all bad starts means it's going to have a bad ending. You can have a slow start and have One Piece.
Exactly. You
can
never
have
know.
A story that's over 1,000 chapters. And I know for some people, like you hate One Piece or it's not for you and you're tired of hearing people talk about. I'm just using it as an example because it's a series that you cannot argue has a giant fandom. It has a giant fandom. It's been going on for over 1,000, for 1,000 episodes, over 1,000 chapters, and people still love it. And it, as someone who's a fan, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It's a slower
Exactly.
burn. I think we've talked about it. There's different moments in One Piece that kind of shine for someone that kind of is that, that eureka moment of,
Yeah.
nope, I'm not stopping. I'm in for the long haul.
I think you can say similar things about Naruto as well, where
For sure. Also,
Naruto-
but also a very long series.
exactly Naruto I think is not.
I would
a
say Naruto's
huge
better
slow
than
burn.
One Piece, though.
Oh, at the beginning, yeah.
Like, it definitely does a better job of
It still
getting you
takes
in.
a couple episodes to go in, I think. to
3
be
episode rule would be
fully-
tougher, but overall, the first arc is not as slow as a burn.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
And obviously you get introduced to the main team right away, whereas One Piece, we're literally recruiting people as we're kind of going.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that not necessarily if something's amazing at the beginning does it mean, what's something, it's not even that recent, but oh man, I can't even remember what the anime is called. It's by Studio Trigger, I believe. If you know anything about Trigger, they go to space.
What?
Yeah.
Spirit Gun?
Darling in the Franxx.
Darling in the Franxx. Okay.
That definitely passes the 3 episode check. Like for me, obviously this is also a personal preference where it passes the test of 3 episodes. It's definitely intriguing, had interesting characters, interesting concept, and you're following it. That did not have a great ending. No way, Jose.
Okay.
And part of me does wish I didn't waste my time finishing that show, to be honest. But
Now-
you wouldn't know by doing the 3 episode rule. And this is where social media comes in. And I think there's no better anime to use as an example than Demon Slayer episode 19 for season 1. And I don't want to sound, pretentious or anything, but I was watching the anime before that.
It's true.
But
This is the one thing Connor takes pride in when it comes to the anime community.
I remember, it's especially like someone who hasn't been watching anime for my whole, since I was younger. Yeah, I've watched, Dragon Ball, One Piece,
Pokemon.
4Kids stuff.
Yeah.
But as someone who's not new to the community because I've been in for a while, but there isn't many shows that I've been watching or I did before I did the podcast that I would go to Live Chart and read the synopses of new shows coming out and be like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I was coming off of watching Dororo, which is kind of like a samurai-esque anime. And I remember reading the Demon Slayer synopsis, and I was like, this is pretty generic sounding. But,
Yeah.
I was coming off the hype of another samurai. I was like, another samurai show? I'm in.
Let's go. Yeah.
Get me some katanas. We're going in. And I remember me and my friends that we talk a lot about anime and I think at this time I was also in school still, and
You were, yeah.
my one friend I was watching Dororo with was like, I don't really want to watch a show that, not that they're the same, but you have to take into consideration Dororo is a samurai show that talks about demons,
Yeah.
and then Demon Slayer is a samurai show that talks about slaying demons, and Dororo slays a lot of demons in Dororo.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So he was like, no, that's too similar. So he didn't want to watch it. So then I watched it with my other friend, who's part of our little Discord community we have. And we're just watching. We're like, you know what? I remember the opening, and everyone knows the opening. It's epic. And I remember seeing the art style choices that they did with the bigger, bolder outlining, and then the colors that they were using to be more of that kind of paint effect, if you will, and obviously ufotable. And as a relatively, I would say a Fate enjoyer.
Yeah.
I'm a Fate series enjoyer. I'm not gonna say I'm
You're not obsessed with Fate,
Yeah,
but
I'm
you've
not
seen the
obsessed with Fate,
core
but
too. That
I've seen the core, and I've enjoyed a lot of the Fate. Every Fate. I haven't seen a Fate I don't like.
fair enough.
And we're just watching it, enjoying it. 3 episode rule, it passes. It's alright. Episode 19, and we were part of that craze of what did we just watch? And I remember suggesting it to the guy that was like, oh no, I don't feel like. I was like, you need to watch it. It's epic. And obviously, I remember suggesting it to you.
I remember working together and you showing me the intro many times because you're like, "Oh, I just can't get enough of this intro."
Yeah.
And it's arguably probably my top 5 anime intros.
It's a fantastic
great.
opening. And so me, Gray, and my other friend Evan, who I was watching with, we're like, "Wow, that was cool." And then all of a sudden, it blew up.
Oh yeah,
The show blew up.
manga sales increased immensely. The show blew up insane.
The show blew up, and everyone's like, it started going super mainstream. We had at the time Ninja was like one of the, if not the biggest streamer for gaming for Twitch.
Yeah,
and I remember him tweeting something like, "This is the greatest anime or greatest anime episode ever," something along those lines.
I do remember you saying that.
And this is part of the two sides of a blade, if you will, where it's like, I enjoy Demon Slayer, but I don't think it's the greatest thing ever made.
It is, yeah.
But also, I was part of that hype, but also part of me, I'm pretty good at being able to kind of take things down and be like, no, it's not the best.
You're not someone that watches a single episode of an anime and just rates it 10 on my anime
yeah,
list?
like I try to not be as affected by recency bias. Yeah. I try my best. There's definitely times where it gets away, but I try my best, and I don't think you're bad if you do otherwise.
No.
It's just my own personal view.
Now,
But it did blow up, and mainstream's blown up about it. And then people who don't watch anime are starting to watch it because they're like, what is everyone talking
what
about?
is everyone wanting to know more about this?
And obviously we saw unprecedented sales in terms of just, and I think something like that does not happen without social media.
No.
Because the only way, if there was no social media, it's just growing by word of mouth to other people that might have not been watching. Like, it may have been me going, "Matt, you should watch this anime. This episode was epic."
Yeah, and then I watch it and I pass it on to
and
someone
me passing
else
it to my other friend
so
who wasn't
forth.
watching it already and being like, "Hey, you need to watch." But with the power of social media, and all it takes is one influencer who might actually be watching this anime to recommend it, and then maybe people who are following them that had no idea they're even into anime are like, "Whoa, I'll give this a try."
Yeah,
and it just this crazy domino effect. And I think that's why it's a very good example of how social media can impact. And now we have, and then with TikTok and stuff now too, we have
the amount of random clips that come up on my TikTok feed.
The millions of views they get.
Yeah.
There's literally people on TikTok whose whole channels are just recommending stuff.
Yeah.
Recommending stuff based on things maybe you've seen. Recommending stuff based on a genre. Recommending stuff based on being underrated. Recommending stuff that's overrated. And that's just their channel. Millions, hundreds of millions of views. Why would you don't even have to use your own brain to pick something?
Exactly. You just look at I follow this person on social media. Okay, cool. What are they reading? What do they watch right now? Okay, cool.
What are their favorites? What are their favorites that I haven't seen?
Done deal. Boom. Sold.
Another big thing is there's so many influencers, and I don't want to there's obviously a parasocial kind of relationship with a lot of people when it comes to influencers. But I think for the most part, if someone's saying their anime taste and you're lining up with them, it's safe to say you have similar tastes.
Yeah.
If a lot of your favorite shows are their favorite shows, you
Then
probably have a very similar taste. And so if they recommend something, it makes sense that most likely you're going to like that, whatever they recommend. So that's where this article kind of is discussing where the 3-episode rule is dying.
Now, do you find the 3-episode rule to be mostly shonen affected?
No.
Because I feel like a lot of romance ones, for example, you kind of know what
slower,
you're getting into.
Slice of life, any
slice of life style, yeah.
They're going to be slower, but I think the 3-episode rule is still important for, are you kind of introducing characters? Are the characters interesting or unique? I think that's a big thing because similar to sports anime, if the characters aren't intriguing, you kind of know a little bit of what the formula is going to be.
Yeah, that's fair.
And similar, that's kind of romance, right? Do they fall in love or do they not? So the characters are important, whether that's the designs, the side characters you get introduced in those 3 episodes.
Supporting characters, yeah.
So if they're not great or don't pique your interest, then it's probably still going to get dropped. And that's something we've talked about. Oshinoko its first episode is not even really what the show is based on, but it's so crazy that it's such a pull.
Yeah, that you're
and
intrigued by it.
And we've covered it on the podcast before, the drop off of the watching rate per episode. And it does fall off because after that first episode and then the second and third, it almost is a different story from what that first episode kind of leads you into.
Yeah.
But I think it did such a good job of like bringing you in. And I think the story overall is very interesting, kind of covering the into idol slash famous people culture and how that kind of is. I kind of find that interesting because it's not something that's talked about. It seems like something that's usually tried to be behind closed doors and hidden off. Oh, everything's perfect, but it's kind of a dive into how it's not.
Yeah.
Which I like. Yeah, it's there's definitely I think there's good and bad. You can, if you're someone who really enjoys trying to find the gem in the season, I think 3-episode rule is great. If you don't have time and you want to be caught up, kind of like us, where we're doing a podcast where we kind of try and want to be caught up in a way. But tools like Reddit, Twitter, people recommending things on TikTok, if you just kind of search like a tag based on the season.
Our Discord, if you want to chat in the Discord about things you want recommendations about, if you want to watch, not watch, etc.
It's a great way of finding shows. And we even talk about it on our previews where I'll be like, if something comes up that we're not interested in, we'll watch.
Exactly.
And that's the cool thing about social media is that you don't have to feel like you're missing out, because if there is a show that's popping, you'll hear about it.
Yeah.
If you're on the internet, you'll probably hear about it and then you can pick it up.
Easy peasy.
I think one thing that social media has helped a lot on is shows that maybe don't pass the 3-episode rule getting noticed.
Yeah.
And look, I think it's safe to say both of us probably there are shows that we've missed because we've dropped it for the 3-episode rule. But also, without a community like you guys or the Reddit community for anime, there's also shows we probably never would have watched if we didn't have that.
Exactly.
So it's totally, I think, up to the fan. Like, if you're someone who is just getting into it and you have so many good shows to watch, in my opinion, I would just watch the shows that are on backlog that are highly rated, that you want to watch, that you have a better chance of knowing is good.
Yeah.
And then if there's something really popular going on this season, maybe watch that at the same time as well.
Give it a try,
And then just kind of put other stuff on your watch list that intrigues you. But don't let anyone else tell you how to watch things anyways,
Exactly.
Watch what you want to watch.
Exactly. You want to do the 3-episode rule, you don't want to do the episode rule, that's cool too. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes it's one episode, and I think for me, especially for Gray, if it's got, not that CGI ruins a show, it can for sure, but he's a little bit more picky on the CGI. And I think if a show has just absurdly horrible CGI in the first episode, there's a good chance he's done with it.
I think for me, even like looking at all the animes we've watched every month so far this year, like those are not animes I would traditionally just casually watch. And using like the 3-episode try, I know we would watch the entire thing for the anime of the month, but like I wasn't necessarily sold and still a couple episodes in comparison to like you compare 91 Days, for example. I was sold first episode. I was great. Bocchi the Rock, the first episode I was like, okay, I'm interested. Like I'll keep watching. But so I think,
this article also covers sometimes it takes one anime episode to make a call where you just know if it's going to be for you or not. And sometimes you're watching an entire series and you're still like, I don't know, like there's things I like, there's things I don't like.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's stories overall a lot of the time, right? There's ups and downs through stories. No story is truly perfect. But I feel like we should also cover a few very big outliers, maybe if you guys have or have not seen. I think for me, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind when it comes to failing something that will be dropped usually, I think, is Steins Gate.
Yeah. You told me I had to wait till episode 8. I remember that. When I first got into anime, you're like, I don't care if you like it or not, get to episode 8. Like,
you have to get yourself. I think it's like past that, like episode 9 or something.
Yeah.
Like you have to get past the first 8. That is a slow burn. And some people say it's not worth it, but it is. It's worth the wait.
I never finished the full series, but I know from the first season or two that I watched.
Well, it's
I
only
was
24
like,
episodes.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
I thought there was like a movie or two that's connected to it all.
Well, the movie's more
There's
like
like a sequel season or something.
the movie is definitely more fan servicey
Okay.
in terms of like, giving some people what they want. And Steins Gate Zero is a alternate timeline.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
But Steins Gate, like we're talking just that 24 episodes.
Oh, then yeah, I've seen the 24 episodes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And that one is worth it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a show that is doing so much setup. You're also getting introduced to the characters and their personalities, which makes certain events hurt more or have a larger impact.
Yep.
And of course, just the payoff is incredible.
Exactly.
The real story of Steins Gate takes place on that second half, but you need
the lore and the understanding for the
it would
characters
not
are.
have been as good of a story without it.
Exactly.
And I think that's one that it's obviously a very, very popular series now, and rightfully so, very highly rated. But even to this day, I think there's still a lot of people who would love it that just they can't get through that setup, if you will.
Yeah.
Another big one is probably Eva, Neon Genesis Evangelion. I don't believe you've seen it.
I have
But
not.
similarly, there's a lot of build up throughout the show. We're building towards something. And if you just dropped it after 3 episodes, you're missing out on a lot. It is a troubling story, very psychologically. It's a lot. It's got a lot going on for it. Lots of, obviously, just drama in general, psychological drama. And then there's also a lot of philosophical kind of ideas and concepts thrown throughout the series. Different mirrorings of religion. And it's a complex series that you can't just get everything out of 3 episodes. And then you've also got more episodic shows like something like Cowboy Bebop that perhaps you're not really going to get as much out of it unless you watch the entire series, because there's kind of just that little overarching story going on throughout.
I think even like Violet Evergarden, even like that is a slow burn.
Yeah,
But
the end of Violet Evergarden is very good. Very beautiful show.
Yeah.
I think that is the beauty alone in that show is enough to kind of, you're like, oh, it's so pretty. Like, I just want to keep watching it just to give them a chance. Because it is definitely, like you said, yeah, there's definitely parts of Violet Evergarden where...
I think I stopped watching it 2 or 3 times, put it back on the on-hold list.
Oh, have you? Like, that's how you ended up?
Yeah, because I think it's... The overall concept is cool. The art is beautiful, but it is arguably the slowest anime I've ever watched. But I know the ending was supposed to be really good. The story is good, but again, it is just very, very slow.
Oh, yeah. And like we mentioned, a lot of earlier shonen kind of...
The pacing is very different.
And it's different for everyone as well. Like, you might know yep, One Piece is for me. You might know that on the first episode.
Easy.
The goofiness of it, maybe the art style or the way the main character is. You might know. But there are definitely outliers, and I think it's one good thing from social media. There's a lot of bad things about social media, but I think this is, for our community, as toxic as it can be, and as toxic as certain fandoms can be. I think everyone in our community is happy to recommend one of their favorite shows to someone. Or if there's a manga that they've loved and it's getting an anime and they're like, guys, you need to check this out. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Sometimes maybe it's not, but it could be. It's just nice to have millions of people to be able to be like, hey, what's a recommendation?
Yeah.
You're more likely to get a lot of recommendations from 1 million people than just 5.
It's true. In conclusion.
You have anything to add?
No, I think that's it.
Rule?
Like, I think in conclusion, Connor and myself, we do our best to follow the 3-episode rule. It's not mandatory. Like Connor said, there's so much social media. There's everything out there that will tell you if it's a good manga, good anime.
Use multiple tools. Use, whether you're hopping on TikTok, whether you're hopping on Twitter/X, Reddit.
My anime list. Use multiple things.
Use sources. Maybe people are... It happens. Maybe someone is rate bombing a certain anime on my anime list, and you want to check out what's the deal? Is it good? Is it bad? there's resources to do so. There's also communities like us. Like Matt mentioned, Discord down below in our link tree. Check it out. Chat it up with some other people that are like-minded that might like anime, and maybe they can steer you in a direction of a show you haven't heard of that you might like. Or a show maybe you did drop after 3 episodes, and they can tell you why. Maybe give it 5.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's worth it. And in some shows, it is worth watching those extra episodes.
We'll also throw the
never know.
link from the article that we were kind of referencing in the description below as well.
Yes, that is a good idea. We'll definitely drop that down below. And if
Otherwise-
you're not already, please subscribe.
Yeah.
We are on the road to 250 subscribers. We've had quite the gain in the
Last
past,
month or so now.
just this year in general.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of growth that we love to see, and we're proud, and we hope to continue growing the community. So if you're not already, please hit that subscribe button, as well as follow us on
All the social medias.
I
Like
was
we're
gonna
on
say, all the-
TikTok.
we are on everything.
X.
We might not
whatever.
tweet a lot
Yeah.
or post on Instagram a lot, but we're there.
We're there. Same with TikTok. But we're getting more and more slowly into the YouTube shorts and the shorts in general. And also, just a friendly reminder, Anime of the Month, 91 Days. Check that out. The episode for July, the Anime of the Month, will be out in a couple weeks, but it's super exciting. I really enjoyed so far.
Great series.
Great series. And if you want to talk about that, talk about it in our Discord.
And
We
suggest
got,
stuff for August, maybe.
Exactly. If you got
Or
something...
September.
or
In
spring.
October. We'll get to them all.
Exactly. And maybe, if it's well, we'll continue it next year too. We don't know yet.
We hope so.
We hope so. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you, and see you next week.